Well, ESPN's Chris Fowler had something to say about Georgia and Florida for the cocktail party. Grabbing some Freebird. Make sure you're mixing this into your world's largest outdoor cocktail party drink rotation. Stay hydrated out there. Mama always said to drink more water, and you know we will at Dog Post as we get ready for Georgia and Florida. Uh, Here's what Chris had to say. He said, Florida will hang with Georgia. You can better believe it will be competitive. That's what he said Saturday night as we watched LSU get absolutely destroyed by Texas A&M. I don't know who's going to be on the call down there. My suspicion is it will be Kirk and Chris Fowler. We'll see. I've been talking about this a lot this week. I don't know what to expect of Florida in this game. I know what to expect of Georgia. And unless it's a turnover game or, something like that, Georgia's going to do what they've always done. They're going to go out there and play solid defense. Something that jumps out to me about the Gators in particular is they're really not doing well on third down on offense. And Georgia's not great at that on defense, but to be one of the worst teams in the country at it, like the Gators are, that's certainly a reason to be concerned coming into this game if you're Florida. And, listen, Chris is not an idiot. He knows what he's talking about, but I think there could be some hope there that it's going to be competitive. I don't know what competitive necessarily, what he means by, I can't categorize what he means by that, but this is a Florida team that has fought a lot. I mean, if you watched them play Miami, you know what I'm talking about. They didn't just get killed by Miami. I mean, Miami was in a knife fight with them in the fourth quarter. I mean, like that, I think it speaks to both Miami's challenges and the Gators. I mean, Florida will fight. They nearly lost to Mississippi State at home a week ago. That was not good. Georgia winning 34-17 the way A&M did, or 31-10 would not surprise me. I think that would be a bit of a blowout, but they fought LSU. They couldn't do much against South Florida, but they were competitive in that game as well. I think for the Gators, they've just been bad on offense. I mean, you've got in their Power 5 games, they've scored 16, 10, 7, 29, 17, and 23. They've scored over 23 points once this season. And they have not hit 30. So Alabama beat Georgia scoring 24 points. Nobody else has, and I'm going to look at something real quick. I wonder how many people have beaten Georgia scoring fewer than 30 points in the last couple years. So in the last 9 seasons, it's happened 7 times. Here's the list. 2017 Alabama, 2018 Texas, 2019 South Carolina, 2023 Alabama, 2024 Mississippi, 2024 Notre Dame, 2025 Alabama. I don't think that Florida can win this game scoring under 30 points. And it's, they are averaging not 30 points in these like actual SEC games. I mean, they're averaging 22.4 in all of their games. But in Power 5 play, they're averaging right at 17 points a game. So it's gonna be really hard for Florida to win this game. And be competitive, sure, that can happen. And that's just not. I'm not on here to crank on Chris. That's not what this is. The Florida will fight, man. Like they're good at that. They that's the one thing that. So I understand why Florida decided to do Billy when they did, because they didn't want him catching any steam, beating Georgia, then beating Kentucky, and then beating Ole Miss. Like they were ready for a change. They don't need him saving the season and going 8-4. Which if you beat Georgia, you might. But this is a Florida team that probably at the end of the year is going to have a losing season. And I mean, I see for sure 3 losses on their schedule that remains. I don't know if they beat Kentucky up there. The only 2 games that they'll probably be favored in are Ole Miss and Florida State. Kentucky and Florida State. Florida State's a train wreck. I mean, beyond belief. But this offense is bad at Florida. I mean, number 90 in the country in terms of total offense. Scoring offense is even worse, 103. The defense is solid, 43rd. But that's not anything Georgia hasn't already seen before. So there's that. But, and this is a Georgia team that, if you've been paying attention, they've played better lately. I mean, the Kentucky game played very well against Kentucky, generally speaking. I think they played really well against Auburn from the fumble on. And then they played, offensively, they played very well against Ole Miss. Defensively, Georgia played very well against Auburn. Defensively, they played very well, except, at Tennessee and against Ole Miss. And I would say at Tennessee, it was the first quarter specifically where they did not play well. Everything else after that was manageable. I mean, you're talking about giving up 20 points. Well, it was 17 points in regulation after the first quarter. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Was it 17 points in regulation after that. I mean, you give up 17 on the road. I mean, you're doing fine. I don't like. I think what's happening right now. Was it Voltaire that said, "Don't let perfect be the enemy of the good"? Was it Voltaire? I don't know how many of y'all had that in college. Certainly none of you in high school. And he was a French, scholar and philosopher, and he said, "Perfect is the enemy of the good." And I think that is like one of the best quotes ever, because if you're if you're getting frustrated, I should say, by trying to achieve perfection in every single thing you do, if you're getting frustrated by that, that's a problem. That is a problem, because there is perfect. It just doesn't exist. Now, you can strive for that, but you need to understand that, for instance, if perfection is scoring in one play, it's also okay to drive the ball and kick a field goal at the end if you're up 10 with time running out. There's different ways to do things, and perfection should not be the measuring stick at all times, because it's just too difficult to achieve. Now, when you start thinking about this game, Florida is going to have to come about as close to perfect to play, to win this game as they can. I mean, Georgia's scoring 34 points a game. I'm sure they would like that to be higher. What I would say to them is, here's your chance. Florida, Mississippi State, Texas, those teams. Florida might have the best defense of that group lately. Texas has just struggled mightily. Charlotte is one of the worst teams in college football. So if you want to pull up your scoring margin, now is your time. But this is a team that scored at least 35 points in all but, I think, 3 games this season. You're not Tennessee. You're not Mississippi. That's not the way you play anyway. So I wouldn't get too worried about that. But if you're, Chris is talking about, again, let me just read the quote one more time. Chris Fowler, a longtime ESPN college football analyst, tennis analyst, and former Scholastic Sports of America, I think it was, television anchor, said, Florida will hang with Georgia. You can better believe it will be competitive. Well, he is also promoting it, so there's that. But I don't know if that will be the case for 60 minutes. I think that's the question to me, is with the flashing red lights that this seems to be a team at 6-1, probably number 5 in the country, going up against a team that just fired their head coach, that has a losing record, that, has been unstable, generally speaking, on the offensive side of the ball all year. Is it going to be competitive? I think it will be for a time. I don't know that it will be the whole time. And the LSU Texas A&M game was extremely competitive for about 31 minutes, and then it got ugly. I watched as Ole Miss just got exhausted playing Georgia in the fourth quarter, just straight up exhausted. And you could see it. They could not defensively hang in there. And like going into the fourth quarter with 120 yards rushing, that might not seem like a lot, but 60 yards later, 2 drives later, 2 yards, 60 rushing yards later, 2 drives, 60 rushing yards later, you're at 180. And that's a lot. And so that's what I think probably, Florida has not been within Georgia, been within double digits of Georgia since they won in 2020. The 19 game was extremely competitive. That was Kyle Trask and the uber talented tight end, Kyle Pitts, but they don't have a player like that down there right now. Both those guys were really good players, and what you don't want if you're Florida is for Lagway to have a game where he has multiple turnovers again, or where he doesn't have 100 yards passing. I mean, there have been some real, there have been some flashing red lights like this could get bad. If we don't watch it, this could get bad. I haven't seen that with Gunner. Like, you take a look at DJ Lagway's time. Like, the South Florida game, he played fine. There really wasn't. There's not much to talk about during that game. He played fine. They lost, but then like against LSU, he throws 5 picks. How do you throw 5 picks? Against Miami, he has 61 yards. 61 yards of offense. That's terrible. Against A&M, he sacked 3 times. Miami sacked him 4 times. This guy's been sacked 14 times. That's 2 sacks a game. So here's how the math works for me on that. Now, I know Georgia's not great rushing the passer. You've given up 14 sacks. What does that mean? That means twice a game, and slightly more because they played Long Island University, but slightly more often, with the exception of why does ESPN force things on you when you're on their page? They just start running the ads. Gunner has been stopped 8 times. He's been sacked 8 times. Now, a sack for Gunner might not really be a legitimate sack because it could be a 1-yard loss, but whatever. So he's been sacked 8 times this season. Lagway's almost been sacked double that. I mean, there's been multiple games. The first 2 games of this season, the Kentucky game, the Mississippi game, where Gunner wasn't sacked, period. There's not been a game this season where Gunner doesn't have positive yards. There's a couple of games where Lagway does not have positive yards. There's 4 games this season. Well, 5 games this season. You know what? Every game but the LSU game, DJ Lagway has 10 yards or fewer running it. And every time a sack happens, that's the end of a drive, okay? Almost always. That's very hard to overcome. So you're talking about twice a game, you're getting sacked. That means once a half, you basically take away a drive. That means instead of having, say, 6 opportunities each half to score, you really only have 5. Well, what happens if there's a pick? He's thrown 9 picks, so there's 1 pick a game he's throwing. So you're starting to eat away at drives. That's the problem, is you got to score. And like if 3 drives of your 12 are nixed by, the offense not performing, then the offense has only got that many drives to score. And usually you don't score on every single drive. Usually you score like on 40% or 50% of the drives. So let's just say that Florida, we went from 12 to 9, and we'll give them 5 drives where they don't score and 4 where they do. Are they going to score 4 touchdowns? They usually don't. So you're looking at like something like 20 points. Well, they're averaging 17 points a game. So it makes sense. Like if you look at it from that perspective, that's what they're going up against. And that's against teams that are not like elite, like Georgia has been in the past, and perhaps they are now. I mean, when they played LSU was the, quote, number 3 team in the country. Well, when they played Miami was the, quote, number 4 team in the country. I mean, When they played Texas, they were the quote number 9 team in the country. I mean, well, when they played A&M, they were number 5. That's probably about right. Something like that. So in all cases, except the Texas game, they lost. And in most cases, it was very challenging for them offensively. This is going to be a hard pull for the Gators. Will it be competitive? That's what you say when you are promoting something and you hope a lot of people tune in. And I think a lot of people will because Georgia's a big, huge brand. But while I'm sipping my Freebird down in Jacksonville, I find it hard to believe that Georgia loses this game. But it is sports. And while I'm mixing this in, we'll just watch and see. Thanks for watching.